it's Mena. Welcome back to my channel, or if this is the very first video that you're seeing of me, then one second. Sorry, something in my eye. Anyway, so today in this video, I'm going to talk about my top 10 hardest things about going through chemo. For those who don't know, I went through chemotherapy a couple years, about almost, I think, 12 years ago. And I was about 12 years old and 13 when I finished. So I'm going to talk about all the things I had a hard time with going through chemo, and I want to... Sorry, that was my mom. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about all the things I had a hard time with going through chemo and talk about why they were hard for me and stuff. And if you guys are parents and you have children going through chemo, what are the hardest things for you guys? Or if you're going through chemotherapy, what is the hardest thing for you? I'm just curious because maybe they might do the same as mine. Maybe they might be a little different than mine. We're all different. We all handle things differently. So I'm going to get started. So number one on my list had to be missing school. So this was really hard for me because I only went to the first day of 6th grade. Then I missed the rest of the year due to chemotherapy because while I was going through chemo, my parents wouldn't let me go to school because they were worried about my immune system. And some kids that I know going through chemo, they were able to go to school because their parents would let them go to school on days their immune system, their counts were up and stuff. So for when you go through chemo, your immune system's really weak, and if your counts are like up at a certain thing, like your blood counts, then you can go out to places. But if your blood counts weren't high enough, then you couldn't go out. Does that make sense? Please let me know if that made sense down in the comments below. Well, so this was hard for me because I couldn't see my friends. I couldn't do any of the schoolwork, and it just was really hard for me. Number 2 on my list would have to be not seeing my friends. This also was hard for me. Like I mentioned before, I only got to see like 3 of my friends when I was going through chemo. Like my best friend would always stop by after school and she'd hang out with me until her mom would pick her up because her mom would work late. Right? She needed a place to hang out because she couldn't be at home by herself. So she needed a place to hang out. And I got to see one of my friends when he'd be walking to or back from home, to or home from school, and he'd stop by and say hi to me. I mean, sometimes I'd either be asleep or if I wasn't there. Like sometimes I used to sit in the window of my living room, which is now my Airbnb, and sometimes I'd see him walk by, but one day I wasn't there, and I guess he was looking for me. And so I really didn't get to see a lot of my friends going through chemo. I only got to saw like one of them because we couldn't let a lot of people come over due to the fact that I was going through chemo, and I couldn't be in a large crowd because we didn't know who was sick or not. So I hope all this is making sense and stuff. Number 3 on my list had to be not liking some of my favorite foods. So through chemo, you get your taste buds really change, and there are foods you like and foods that you don't like. I know a lot of people when they go through chemo, they don't like a lot of foods. Like they barely like any foods, but they have to eat them to get their strength up. For me personally, I only did not like several foods like hamburgers. I love hamburgers. I didn't like my mom's scrambled eggs, and I love my mom's scrambled eggs. I also loved strawberries. Those are my favorite fruits. And when I was going through chemo, I didn't like strawberries, and that was really hard for me because I love all of those foods, and I loved them since I was a kid. But going through chemo, I just couldn't eat them because I couldn't taste them, and if I couldn't taste anything, it means I didn't like it. So let me know if that makes sense too. Number 4 on my list should be staying in the hospital. This was really hard for me. It's like I hated staying in the hospital because the nurses sometimes the night nurses would wake me up. But they were all really nice and stuff. Sometimes I'd say my roommates in the hospital were a little bit noisy, and that was just really hard for me. And one time I was in the hospital with my mom, and then we were up all night because we were stuck in the hospital with 2 screaming babies. We we felt really bad for the babies, but we kind of didn't get enough sleep because the babies were literally like crying all night, and we literally like slept the whole day the next day. And so that's like one of my hardest things I had in staying in the hospital because I'm usually a pretty heavy sleeper, like a medium sleeper and a light sleeper, but like some things can't really wake me up like I can't wake up to people speeding down my street, but the things that wake me up, I can't wake up to the sound of like doors opening or anything. Those don't wake me up. Nope. The only thing that wakes me up is my dog Daisy barking, or usually I sleep through people speeding down my street, or car alarms wake me up too. So those are the only things I cannot sleep through. And the nurses just would turn on bright lights, and that would just really, really wake me up. Number 5 on my list would have to be not being able to go out at certain times. So during chemotherapy, you have blood counts, and if your blood counts are low, you can't go out or do anything because your immune system going through chemo is super weak, so you need to be extremely careful. So this was really hard for me because whenever my counts were low, I had to stay in the house and stuff, which is kind of nice, but at the same time I wanted to do something because sometimes I'd be bored sitting at home because I didn't really have much to do. But my mom would come up with ways to keep me busy, like either we do a puzzle together, or we do a puzzle together, or we do play games, or do this, or watch movies. Mainly we just watch movies because we didn't really find very many games to play. We just sat and watched movies, and that's pretty much all that we pretty much did when we were stuck at home. And it was kind of hard for me because I wanted to go to some places like museums and stuff, but because I was going through chemo, I couldn't go. Number 7 on my list would have to be missing important events. This was also hard for me because like I wanted to go to certain places. Like I wanted to go, like one time it was my sister's uncle's wedding, and I was supposed to go, but I couldn't go because my counts were low, and I was super disappointed because I love weddings, and I was looking forward to really going, and it was very exciting because I love weddings. I love seeing 2 people get married, and I think it's very cool. It just makes me happy. And I did miss another important event, and I think it was my best friend's birthday party. Well, it was canceled because she kind of got in trouble for her grades at school at the time. And I was super disappointed that got canceled. Number 8 on my list would have to be the medications. Now, the medications were probably one of the hardest things for me going through chemo. Because some of the meds made me just really, really sick. Like my cisplatin was the worst. It made me sick. My methotrexate wasn't bad, but it made me sick, gave me headaches, and gave me really bad mouth sores. My doxorubin just gave me terrible mouth sores, and my mouth would be in so much pain, and it just literally it just hurt so bad. I couldn't even drink water because it hurt. Number 9 on my list would be getting sick. Now this was also really hard for me because again, some of the chemo meds made me super sick. Now here's a mistake I made. Was one time I had breakfast, and right after I had breakfast, I accidentally had my phosphorus. So what it was a pink powder. It could go in something liquid. Like I could drink it with orange juice, apple juice, or water. I mainly just drank it with water because I didn't like the taste of it in apple juice or orange juice. So I drank it with water, and then I accidentally had Apple Jacks right after I finished the medication, and I didn't read the instructions because I wasn't very good at reading directions very well. I'm sort of working on following directions, which I need to work on following directions, but sometimes I get confused of directions and how they work. Anyway, so I accidentally I ate some Apple Jacks for breakfast right after I had my phosphorus, And then as right after I had the phosphorus, I was in the bathroom or something. I was in the bathroom room, and then all of a sudden I felt like throwing up and I couldn't make it to the toilet. So my mom grabbed a pink tub and I started puking in the pink tub. I know, I'm really sorry. That's really gross, but it just literally was so gross. Gross. I'm so sorry if I'm making you guys sick or anything. So, but this is what happened going through chemo. Number 10 on my list would have to be hearing little kids cry. This was really heartbreaking for both me and my mom. So whenever we'd be walking through the hallways, we'd hear like little kids crying because some of them had to get poked with needles, and a lot of the kids were scared with needles, which I understand because I'm very afraid of needles. And then it just was really hard because a lot of them were scared. They were crying going through chemo and getting poked with needles because some of them didn't have catheters in their chest, so they wouldn't have to get poked. And it was just super hard. My mom even was crying one day when we heard a little girl crying in the hallway one day when we were doing a lap in the hallway. My mom and I even heard a little girl cry, and it really just made both of us want to cry because we felt so bad for the little girl. I think she was like 6 or something. I didn't see her, but I could hear her crying, and it made us feel bad. So yeah, that was really hard for me because, again, I love kids, and it just breaks my heart to hear them crying because they're so frightened of needles. Okay, so that was my top 10 hardest things about going through about chemotherapy. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. I apologize this video is so long, but thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I post Monday through Wednesday this week, and I'll see you in another video soon. Goodbye.